Just after 5.
Bill, you gotta do the mic.
Oh, I got it on. Hello, is that better? All right, cool. All right, so couple things. First of all, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance, then we'll go from there. It's not in the agenda. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Proof of posting? Bill?
Yep.
Okay, a couple things just for you guys, and hopefully everybody's in agreement with this. So we'll do the first couple items on the agenda. The opportunity for public to address the board. I think what we should do is get a motion on the table, and then during the discussion, we can discuss and we can have the public input during that portion of it, so that way the public gets their say, and then we'll deliberate after that, and then we'll finish up the rest of business. Is that okay with everybody? Okay. All right, so approval of July 21 minutes. Need a motion for that.
I'll move to approve the minutes from the July 21st meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nobody. All right, school calendar is next.
Yeah, at last week's meeting, we discussed pushing back the start of school. So the first day of school for students would be September 1st, but we did not take any action on it. So that's why I placed it on the agenda.
So I'll make a motion to approve the school start date of September 1st.
Second?
Okay, and Bill, that's to accommodate extra training days if we end up going back to school?
3 extra training days for our teachers.
Okay.
And if we need more time, if we need to push it back, we can, but for right now, I think that's a good target date for everybody.
Okay,
Can we just reflect on the calendar, the number of actual school days, so instead of 180, it'll say 177?
Yes, what I'm going to do is, at our next meeting, I'll bring back the actual hard copy,
Okay,
so everybody can see what it looks like, and
okay, thank you.
if we need to tweak it, we can tweak it then, too.
okay.
Mr. Chair, just a quick question. I believe this makes sense, but I see that our sister community in SAU is going back the 8th. Is that correct? Can you tell me why they're thinking the 8th and you're...
Candia, just, we discussed, they just wanted more time than what we discussed, what we think is good for Hooksett and Auburn. Auburn and Hooksett are pretty similar, but Candia just decided, Candia just wants to do even more training, and I left that up to the principal, Mrs. Wing.
All right, thank you for that clarification.
Okay, any more discussion? Thanks, Wayne. All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? No. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion for the old business, reentry school discussion. Motion?
I would like the board to consider the following. Based on our conversations that we've had at our last meeting, and based on the input we're receiving from our parents that we've gotten over the last week or so, and I believe we need to do everything possible to bring back as many students as we can, with the understanding that we're going to need an online option for those that cannot attend for whatever reason, including if parents don't feel comfortable sending their children. I've talked with our principals. We think we can make that happen because based on the feedback we're getting from our parents, we probably will not need as many teachers in the actual classroom if the numbers hold that we think we're going to get for the online option. So we believe we'll be able to do it without any additional cost. So that's what I'm asking the board to consider for a motion.
So are you saying you would like to do a combination of A and C and
Yes.
take hybrid off the table?
Yes.
I should have the motion first.
No, we need to make a.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve scenario 1 and 3 to open schools with a face-to-face start with the appropriate precautions, with also offering an online option for families.
I'll second.
And
If you don't mind, can I just have that again? A little hard to option 1 and 3?
Yeah, so we would open face-to-face with the appropriate precautions, and also offer an online, remote option for families.
And what we would do, just to, and I'll leave it open for discussion, is that we would like to get out a survey, if not by Friday, certainly by Monday, to our parents, asking them to identify whether they plan on returning to school, or if they're going to opt out for the online option. And if they do, all we're going to ask this time is just to, please, for them to identify what grade their child will be in starting school. We'll then send, once we get all the information back, we'll then send out a letter from each of the 3 schools to our parents, saying basically to call the school, notify the school that you're not coming back, so we get a name with that number. So our calendar or our schedule looks like we should be able to get that done by the second week in August. That is, we should know who the students are that won't be coming back, and then start working on how we're going to set up the, who's going to teach what. What teachers will teach what classes.
Do we have a second yet?
What's that?
Do we have a second yet? Did you? Did we- I don't think we had a second. You
No, we
must have.
didn't, do we? I'll second it then.
All right, cool.
That I did.
Go ahead, Greg, that's all right.
Yeah, I thought I did anyway. One question I did have is, on the, actually, no, never mind, I'll wait.
Okay. Yeah, as I said, we'll let the public speak, and then, so, again, guys, some of you were here last week and some weren't, so the idea is to keep your comments to 3 minutes, right? And I just kind of let it roll last time, and people had Gettysburg Address type stuff. Just try to make it, fairly brief. I don't want to break out a Baker timer like it's been done in the past and go, ding, you're done, but just be reasonable and think about other folks' time and et cetera. More than welcome, whoever wants to come up and speak in the public can do so now.
Speech before the president came on. You and I, the only people that know what I'm talking about.
There we go. Okay. My name's Christine Titus, and I live at 12 Morgan Drive. First of all, I just want to say that I completely appreciate how hard of a decision this is for all of you, and I would not want to be in any of your shoes, since it affects every single Hooksett student, family, teacher, staff member. That's a lot of responsibility that's going into this decision. And I guess I'm confused as to why a parent survey would be going out now that we're talking about hybrid going off the table. Last week, there were a lot of people that seemed to put a lot of emphasis on the fact that 88% of parents seemed comfortable with return to school. I'd just like to mention that that survey was sent out in May. None of us knew where we'd be at this point in August. None of us had a crystal ball. None of us knew what was happening. And it was only a yes or a no option. So we were in a position to answer that survey when we hadn't yet seen a plan. So to now hear that hybrid's going to be off the table when we don't feel like we had a chance to give input on it, I was really excited last week when I heard several board members say that it suggests that another survey that would be more accurate and timely go out to parents. I checked my email every single day this past week for that survey, and it never came. So how can we be making this decision when you still haven't surveyed parents? I guess to me that's just a really important piece of the puzzle that doesn't seem to be included. It's kind of like that survey in May was like asking somebody to complete a puzzle with half the pieces missing. So now that we've seen the plan and we know what those 3 options are, to have one of those options off the table before we've ever gotten a survey again doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. So what I was going to say is completely different based on the information that I just heard, but it's disappointing to think that it seemed as though a lot of you last week were all for surveying parents, and then that didn't happen. Here we are a week later. That's it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just a quick comment. I think maybe for clarification for the folks in the audience, we have a motion on the table just to kick off discussion formally, but that's not the decision yet. So maybe it's worth clarifying that.
It's just, well, I mean, yeah, being on the table for discussion just means, again, you bring it up. It doesn't mean we're voting for it or against it. You're just bringing it up for discussion, that's all. Yeah, and that's his prerogative, right? So, again, so Wayne, part of it is and if you guys read the comments and the public input, we don't try to go back and forth with the
I know, I
public.
just wanted to clarify.
So again, we obviously want your input, that's why we're asking for it before we make a decision, but it's not, it just creates an ugly environment because it starts going back and forth with everybody, so just keep that in mind.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. that.
No, I appreciate it.
Motion.
Yep. Okay, anybody else from the public?
Bob LaChance, 16 Fieldstone Drive. I sent everyone an email yesterday, but I just wanted to get it on the record again, where I stand, and just point out a couple things for the people who, I think I could take this off, right? For the people who didn't get my email. So I checked yesterday, just so everybody's aware, from a safety standpoint, which I appreciate is the number one priority. According to the New York Times, New Hampshire Coronavirus Map and Case Count article from 7/28/2020, you have a less than 0.014% chance of dying from COVID in Merrimack County. I'm not a math teacher, but that's pretty small number. I also did some research and found an article written by the CDC. It's dated July 23rd. Would encourage people to Google that and find it and read it. From a safety perspective, I think COVID is certainly an important piece of the puzzle, but it's also the short and long-term impacts of not having kids in school. So I think the motion put forward to giving parents the choice is the right motion. Not going to read the whole article. I'm just going to hit some highlights for folks who might not read it. The harms attributed to closed schools on the social, emotional, and behavioral health, economic well-being, and academic achievement of children, both the short and long term, are well-known and significant. The lack of in-person educational options disproportionately harms low-income, minority children, and those living with disabilities. Best available evidence indicates the COVID-19 poses relatively low risk to school-age children. Again, this is a CDC, it's the government. So far in this pandemic, deaths of children are less than each of the last 5 flu seasons. Based on current data, the rate of infection among younger school children and from students to teachers has been low, especially if proper precautions are followed. There have always been fewer reports of children being the primary source of COVID-19 transmission among family members. This is a very well-cited document. There's a whole page of resources. Extended school closure is harmful to children. It can lead to severe learning loss, and the need for in-person instruction is particularly important for students with heightened behavioral needs. This paragraph kind of sunk in for me. We also know that for many students, long breaks from in-person education are harmful to student learning. For example, the effects of summer breaks from in-person schooling on academic progress, known as summer slide, are also well documented. According to the Northwest Evaluation Association, in the summer following 3rd grade, students lose nearly 20% of their school year gains in reading and 27% in math. By the summer after 7th grade, students lose on average 39% of their school gains in reading and 50% in math. This indicates that learning loss are large and become even more severe as a student progresses through school. The prospect of losing several months of schooling compared to the few weeks of summer vacation due to school closure, like the ones being considered for COVID, only makes the learning loss more significant. Then there's a bunch of stuff on emotional and social skill development. I'm not going to read through all of it. I encourage everybody to really read this article. It's got some stuff, and it's all supported by facts. And then the last thing I wanted to say was, again, I think you're on the right track with your decision. These are challenging times for sure. We cannot let our kids get behind academically because a minority of parents are afraid. I appreciate the effort put into the online program at the end of last school year, but let's be honest, the kids learned very little, if anything at all. Also, not all parents have the luxury of staying home with their kids to ensure they are doing online work. There are bills that have to be paid. So I feel better I stated my case. Thank you.
Thank you for wiping that, too.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, let's get to the deliberating. So you guys want to go around the table? Like, Wayne, do you want to start first and we'll go this way? I know everybody has something to say, right? So,
Yeah. Oh, it's a mistake to let me go first, Mr. Chair.
listen, you have 3 minutes, only kidding.
I'm going to mask off just so folks can hear me. I watched the last meeting on YouTube, and it was tough, so since we're distanced, I would argue this is okay so people can understand what we're doing. To Ms. Titus' comment, I had sent the board an email last night. So the survey that went up before was high level, but had some open questions, write comments about why you're a yes or a no, and additional comments. And there was a lot of good data in there, and because I'm the data guy, I started wondering if we could actually use that survey data to classify what people wanted based on the comments. So I set up some criteria. I recruited a college student that lives in my neighborhood, and we had a go at the data. And it was interesting. Obviously, there's some judgment calls involved, but if you take that 80 plus to low 90% back in class, and you qualified it by, we need to be back in class, I don't have these concerns, or I do have these concerns, or maybe we should be remote, or I have immunotherapy, or immunity issues in the family, et cetera. So we broke it down, we went through every single line, and out of these 696 non-duplicate survey responses, we had roughly 76, I say roughly because we had to interpret, but 76%, it was clear they wanted to be back in class. We had about 12% that were leaning towards hybrid, or just the response seemed to be that way. The email I sent last night to the board, I had combined hybrid and undecided, and so I've separated that, and so it's like 4%. I mean, the word undecided or maybe was part of the response. And then about 7.5% remote. So I can make that available for the public, but I just want to say that was really enlightening to read all the comments, break it down. So I think that accommodates the concern about the 80+% number being cited, and I think it is more than 3/4 would like to be back in class. Obviously, a lot of questions about safety. So I just wanted to mention that for the previous comments. I like the proposal on the table. I'd like to raise you a hybrid model. I think about my son going into first grade, and Hooksett has been ahead of the ball. We talk about we got to the hybrid model, or sorry, we got to the remote model 2 weeks before it was mandated across the state. I want to argue that we could actually pull off all three, and maybe that's a question of some debate here tonight. But I think for a majority, a case of the results I sent out, 3/4, they want to be back. If you look at the New Hampshire CDC data, and I've done some analysis on that, a lot of families don't have a risk condition. The numbers are very, very, very low. But that's not everybody. We heard a lot of letters and comments last week about folks that have a compromised person at home. They have someone with one of the risk factors, multiple risk factors. And I think if we could swing a hybrid in addition to it, it would be an amazing model because essentially you're letting families self-select their risk model. And I think the 6-foot distancing was brought up by a lot of people. A lot of people liked Manchester's discussion on that topic. I imagine again for Underhill, for example, 7 first-grade classrooms, maybe 5 of them are running fully present. Maybe 1 or 2 are running a hybrid. The classes operate differently. There's some common procedures for the bus getting in the building, going to your class, but then you've got a set of classes rotating. For our hybrid definition, we've got a set of classes there, and I think the folks self-selecting would be delightful, and I think we'd totally do it. So I can talk later. I don't want to hog the whole the time right now, but I'd like to throw it out, and I think we could do it, and we should try.
Julian?
Okay, so with what we just put on the table for discussion, I just have a couple of bullets of things that I want to raise or bring to our attention in the discussion. So I do like the idea of 1 and 3 because I think that their hybrid does not work for the majority of our families. And I think there's just a lot that goes into that that's going to make it really, really tough. But saying that, I want to make sure that we're not alienating our families that don't feel comfortable coming back and that we are going to give our remote a really good program. If we are going to bring as many people back as possible, I know we have budget constraints, but I definitely want to look on our filtration system, and I would definitely say we need to mandate masks if we go in that direction. I also would like to see or discuss at some point maybe a sub-rate increase. I know we were looking at it before we broke with COVID because I think subs and transportation are going to be our downfall and making this all work very well. And lastly, I'd like to see if we are going to bring in as many students as possible, I'd like to see our schools open at night to these outside groups that use the schools on a regular basis if they have COVID plans that they can show us. A lot of the organizations like Scouts and things follow protocol that we would follow. They have to wear a mask, they have to meet in small groups, and they're already our school population. So I'd like to see us work something out where if we really are worried about our social well-being of our students, that they get a full experience coming back. And that's what I have for right now.
Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, everyone. We received a lot of information. The information that was used in the preparation of the plan that was presented 2 weeks ago, as well as over 55 pages of comments, which I know the superintendent has answered or will be answering at some point, and hopefully a lot of those, again, will be answered tonight, as well as a link to about 25 other various information pieces, and one particularly which I did read, and I think we all did, which was part of the plan, was the one that the gentleman referenced earlier. That was very informational and scientific. There are quite a few things we still need to address, this, mask and transportation, which we'll be getting to tonight or as soon as possible. At first, one of my questions was, Hooksett has that school choice option. Is there an option for Hooksett to have more than one? And based on this decision tonight, or the motion, the option is to have full learning in class and remote learning. So I would certainly pleased to know that the ability to do a online, excuse me, not online, that's college, let's not get there yet. Distant learning, please add from what the superintendent said, the capability of having that online remote learning ability for the parents to choose. I'm pleased, so it certainly would maybe a little bit more explanation on how that's going to be handled. I know we were looking for guidance, and I'm glad we did receive the guidance after discussion of the 3 options. at first I was leaning towards the hybrid model, and then there was concerns about having no face-to-face contact with the teachers, which is vital. I mean, that one-on-one connection, when I taught, is certainly important. How that would have gone over from TV, from a remote system, I think even 20 years ago, certainly, that was a long time ago, would be difficult. So I'm looking at, so as I said, certainly more information on the remote part. But this also addresses the concerns from the quotes, comments that there won't be, there are families that do need to have the parents go back to work. So I always thought that, and then the concerns were, I don't want, rightfully so, from some people's point of view, I don't think I feel comfortable with my children going into the school, even as in a hybrid model. So having either one, I think, would have been problematic from that end, and I thought we're going to choose one, but having an option of two, I think meets the best of both worlds. And I think the option two for those who, for parents who need to go back to work, and then understand that the hybrid model would be somewhat problematic because 2 days in school, 3 days not, so that the parent would have to deal with that. And then on the other individual, parents who are concerned with their kids going back to school, that hybrid model would say, well, they're going to be in school in contact, even with the 3 feet guidance that, the 6 feet guidance that was originally proposed quite a while ago. Even with that, even with the 3 feet, that 6 feet guidance, there's still going to be over 250 kids or people in the school, even in the hybrid model each day. So, so at this point, I would certainly be inclined to vote for option 1 and 2. Option 1 and 3. As I said, it represents the best of both worlds, but certainly a little bit more clarification on how that remote aspect would be addressed. So, but the other issues on mask and other items, we'll get to that. But that's what I stand on this. Thank you.
I'll jump in just because I'm in order. I write down a bunch of random notes. To Jim's point, just for the public, right? So we've looked over tons of information, 1 million links, all different references, all the parents' comments, all the emails that we get separately, like you spoke earlier, I saw your email today. So anyway, just kind of, I guess, keep that in mind. A couple things to me. So Wayne, to your point, I would love to be able to do COVID choice, for lack of a better term, but I don't think we have the resources to do all that. I mean, at the end of the day, we have a teacher's contract that we have to abide by, and they have families and all that stuff, right? So I think the process most of us are thinking about is we'll have some teachers that are immunocompromised, obviously, that won't be able to come back to work, or have a, specific issue that's like, human resources based that doesn't allow them to come to school. And we would utilize those teachers for a lot of the online stuff like Kara had brought up before, right? So that's kind of like, using one problem to solve another problem. So again, just at the end of the day, think about the fact that resource-wise, teachers can't be working 24 hours a day. And I know they were all in the full remote model. I had friends that said it's the hardest they've ever worked in their lives, last spring. So the other aspect of it is, again, every study that we looked at, everything we've reviewed said with the proper safety protocols, kids should be fine to go back to school. And again, we're just doing it based on the data and the information that we've been provided for a bunch of different resources, right? So, and then the hybrid model also, when they're not here in school, where are they? So are they going to daycare with a bunch of group of different kids on the different days when they're not here at school, which obviously introduces you to a whole new group of the virus, et cetera, if someone was to go down that road. I mean, even the colleges, if you look at them, like my son's college, they're basically getting the kids there early. They want them there till Thanksgiving. They're letting them go home for Thanksgiving break, and then they have to stay at school till the end because they don't want them introduced to other foreign groups outside of college. As far as specifics, Jim, I agree that obviously there's a lot of work that needs to be done beyond this. obviously, we looked at a bunch of information, and our job is to really deal at, I don't say the 30,000-foot level. Bill's our CEO, right? So day-to-day operations are in his realm. So, I mean, I know there's things that he may not have answers for tonight. He's done a lot of research on the safety aspects of things, but I'm sure he'll get that tied up. And one of the reasons why we are making the decision now is it gives him basically a month to do what he needs to do to get everything up to snuff, from a safety standpoint, et cetera. And again, obviously, all of us are in favor of the kids wearing masks, I would imagine. That's what I hear from everybody. And I would be in favor of that. I don't want to send anybody, a teacher or another kid into school if other folks aren't taking the proper precautions, just like you can't go into Shaw's, you can't go into Target, et cetera, right? It's kind of like the norm now. And it's not just looking out for yourself, it's looking out for other folks. It's like, do the right thing, right? So, and then again, from a special ed and IEP standpoint, kids remotely, I mean, in all seriousness, what kind of, resources are they accessing? I mean, that's a tough road for those kids, right? As far as, in-person learning being much better for them. And just overall, I haven't read anything anywhere that said remote learning is good as in-person learning with the teacher at the end of the day. So, Kara, go ahead, I'm done for now.
Yeah, I would agree with everything Phil just said. I definitely support the motion. I support having our kids back in school. And I believe this particular motion covers the needs of the majority of our families. I don't want to speak for the board, but I know we have all read every single email we've received. I know I've read them all twice, and I'm sure everybody has. It matters to us, and we have an incredibly dedicated group sitting here tonight on our board and our administration that has worked really, really hard. And I think this is a plan that allows families to make a choice for the majority. It might not be what's best for your child, but you still have options for private schools, for VLACs, for homeschooling, and then rejoin public school when you feel ready. So we're fortunate enough in New Hampshire that we have a number of options for that. And I think by the public school system offering 2 to our families is a good position to be in. The hybrid model, I don't believe, is the most effective way. We're exposing our kids, many kids will be in daycare on those off days, and like Phil said, they're exposed to a whole other cohort. And just logistically, I think for families and for the school district, it's extremely difficult. So I think this way teachers can focus their teaching on their group of dedicated students, and it'll be a much more effective educational approach. I've been in higher ed for over 20 years, and my rule for my students is if you're making a claim, you have to be able to support that with at least 3 scholarly sources. Just like Mr. LaChance mentioned, there are many, many, many sources that back up a claim to send our kids back to school. I don't have any that support not sending them back. So that's where my decision mostly comes from. Giving the option allows us to limit numbers in the building. We can't expect teachers to be doing all 3 scenarios every day of the week. So I think this is the most fair and equitable way that we can try to get kids back. Nothing's going to be normal in our lives for a very long time. I think I said that last week. We just have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's just the reality of what it is, and we're going to do the best we can with what we have. That's it.
So I'm going to say that I agree as well. It's a tough decision. I mean, I have a 7-year-old that's going into 2nd grade as well, and if I was to tell you that this decision is not the hardest decision I've ever made in my life, I'd be lying. So am I in fear? Yes, but in the same token, I had to look at the data and look at the data that's out there and take my emotion out of it, and the data just doesn't support keeping my son at home. He's more prone to get the flu and go to the hospital with the flu this fall than COVID, which is why I made my decision on doing this. I do think having both options is a great option. It gives the teachers, that may not be able to come back, as well as the parents that don't want to send their students back, the option to be able to work remotely from home. and also might open the door in the future for, we have snow days, we might be able to flip the switch and be, you're working remote tomorrow as opposed to having a snow day. It's stuff that we can look at in the future. The one thing I did have a question about, and it was brought up to me by a couple people today, was students that might be transitioning from, say, second grade to third grade, and then students going from fifth to sixth. There's really not a transition day. Is that something that we could look at, so it's not such a, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm going from one school to the next, and I don't know what I'm doing.
Matt, you want to speak to that, and then Steve, please.
So basically, at Colley, I've already met with the sixth grade team all the way back in April, or not April, probably June, and we knew this. And we are planning with them a day where the sixth graders will come in. It won't be parents this year. I'll meet with the parents through Zoom, through a Zoom webinar, but the students will be able to come in. I talked to Mr. Roma. We're going to send out the stuff where they can get their Chromebooks. Their Chromebooks will be right on their desk when they come in and have their orientation day. And currently, I'm talking with the sixth grade, well, one representative and the team leader about the option of doing that during the workshop days that we have planned, where we have those teams come in, have those kids come in and do their step-up orientation. So we plan to do it very, very, very thoroughly and give those kids, in addition, I've already given 2 or 3 tours, personal tours. I told the parents this year, we sent out a video earlier in June. If any student and their parent wanted a tour of the building during the summer, just reach out to me, and we've been able to do that too.
Okay, thank you. I know that was one thing that was brought up, so I wanted to just check on that.
Dave, well, at Memorial, we're planning something similar to that. I know we're going to have a video tour of the school that we'll be putting out in the upcoming weeks. Kind of wanted to get the school cleaned up a little bit before we did that, so that the incoming third graders will know their way around. And either myself, Mrs. Kelly, will edit that and do that. Same thing with the idea of having a Zoom parent meeting, so that they have an opportunity to, the parents that is, have an opportunity to meet with myself, Mrs. Kelly, and several representatives from the third grade team. Again, trying to replicate something that we've done for many years, just digitally. In regards to the students, we haven't talked directly with the teachers as to how we want to bring them in for that, but that's something that we could work on and figure out what works and what's safe. So that's what we'll do in the upcoming weeks, is figure out what that looks like. We actually tossed around the idea of once our students are assigned into their classes, that we would set up the Zoom meetings as soon as we could, so that even over the summer they might be able to meet their teacher in the days and weeks before school starts. So hoping to alleviate some of that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because that was one of the things that was brought up a couple times today in the many emails we've been getting. One other thing too was, where we go here? I know, Jillian, you brought up the sub-rate, which is great, and we talked about the disinfecting spray. Where do we stand with that?
Like I said, at the last meeting, we did order the electrostatic sprayers. The disinfectant spray that we're going to use is EPA certified for coronavirus. Everything is pretty much in the works, ordered. Similar issues across, availability. Any product we use will be certified by EPA and all of that.
The last thing that I have is, I know that some people are still confused. We do have one-to-one Chromebooks or items for children for this year.
We have one-to-one here at Colley right now. We've ordered the tablets for K-1 and Chromebooks for 3 through 5. And Dan might be able to speak to it a little bit more, but what I understand is it's just not a nationwide shortage, but it's also a worldwide production issue. So I believe, Dan, is it late August, early September when we're going to get them in?
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make
They
sure.
have been ordered, and we're in the queue to get them delivered. But once we get them here, every grades K through 8, it will be a device for everyone.
Yeah, I had figured we did that. I just wanted to make sure. I figured this meeting is probably one of the biggest ones that's going to be viewed. So those will be listening, and we can get that clarified for them. Other than that, I'm good.
All right. So pretty much you all have done all my work for me by stating what I'm thinking.
Are you green?
What's that?
Are you green?
Am I reading or green?
Green.
Green. Can you hear me? Yes? No? So, yes, and certainly, you know, I understand the survey hasn't gone out yet, but we were lucky to get so many parents and community feedback that was really vital. I know, like Kara said, we all read them over and over, and every link, if somebody sent a link, we read the links. So thank you all for doing that. I would also support what is recommended, you know, knowing that we're going to follow and have precautions in place that need to be. I think we've all made it clear that we're all in favor of masks. Those have showed very important. And maybe at a later time, we can have a little mask demonstration and little tutorial on safe classroom use for masks, because I think, unfortunately, there's still some uncertainty. And reading some of the comments sent in, I was surprised to see that some are still very unclear of really the benefits and how to work and be close to people while using a mask. So, let's see. I have several questions about our recommendation. Should I save those for after, or throw them out there, and then if they want to get answered, they can? What would be best?
Ask away.
Okay.
for it.
So, with our suggestion, are we proposing that are we committing to year-long, I guess is what I'm saying. So if a parent, things are going to change, you know, and I guess I'm curious to how flexible and fluid we can be with the kids that either, one, absolutely need to start off remote, but then maybe situations change, you know, the grandmother moves out or something happens and they can come back 100%. Will we be able to accommodate that?
I think we need, the way I view it is, I think we need to put, it's an understanding that if you choose the online option, it's not for the entire year. I would like to have a standard of a trimester, simply because we have staff members, we'll have assigned everybody. And then if we get a large influx of, in other words, a month in, we get 50 parents say, I haven't enough, I thought this was a good idea, I want them to come back, which could happen. Based on the survey we sent out when we were doing distance learning, that was a common comment. But I think, you know, if there's an extenuating circumstance and somebody needs their child to come back, you know, we'll obviously take it on a case by case. But I think overall, it would be with the understanding, if you chose this option, it would be for a trimester. And then we would be able to change at the end of the trimester, if someone wanted to.
Makes sense.
Would that be the same for going the opposite way?
I mean, from the
In-present to remote? Just throwing that out.
I'd have to think about that one. I don't see why not, why it would be different, but.
Well, I mean, along those lines, there's going to be kids that may need to go remote because of a situation changing, right? And you can teach more kids virtually than you can in person.
Right, if someone needed to go to remote because there was we will have more children. In other words, when we start the school year, we'll have I don't know, pick a number, 100. But due to illness, issues that may change at home, they will need to go to the remote learning. It's really kind of the coming back to the school where we might have an issue, because I think our capacity will be greater online, actually.
Right. Okay.
But what we'll do is we'll have that, we'll clarify that in the survey question to our parents, just so that they understand, you know, if you pick it, it's not for life, it's not a whole year. And we'll try to be as flexible as possible. But by and large, the rule of thumb will be try it, do it for a semester.
Yeah, and that kind of followed into my next question of, and I think, honestly, it's a great option if we have a child that is either sick. I mean, we've had kids out for 10, 12 days just with a regular cold or flu. would they be able to jump onto the remote learning so that they're not behind? So it sounds like that is an option. So, and then just other thoughts, I would agree with Jillian that if we're going to open up, that we allow local groups back into the school, and again, following all the precautions. And yeah, we definitely will need to look at the subs situation, which you guys already are. And then a thought too, for those where you have parents, not parents, sorry, teachers in the classrooms, especially at the younger ages, to make sure that we being those of you, come up with a plan so that, whether we hire some, or bring in some volunteers, we want to hire volunteers, bring in some volunteers so that they can have their lunches and, things like that, so.
And that's something that we, regarding the outside groups first, I think that we don't need to decide that tonight, but we do need to decide it before we open. Most outside groups, for example, Greg mentioned his son goes to the Y. We asked them to provide us their protocols that they were going to use before they use Memorial. We would do the same, and I think Jillian mentioned the Boy Scouts. We would do it for every group, say, you need a plan, what is it, provide it to us, but I think the board needs to make a vote on that before we start school to say, yes, for these types of groups, we're good with. Keep in mind, for volunteers, it's tricky because and there's a lot of documents out there, but one of the more important ones is this one Dr. Chan gave the nurses. And it talks about really keeping all members of the public out as much as possible. It sounds very antiseptic, but they frown on volunteers coming into the school. That's not to say you can't. It's just that we're going to have that conversation as to when that would be deemed acceptable by the board, and then we can build it into our handbooks and notify our parents. But again, as I think Kara mentioned before, it's the new normal. Everything that we used to do, either we can't do it or we have to modify what we do. The mask question, the board needs to be definitive on this, in my opinion, that grades, and again, I'm going by the American Academy on the pediatrics. They said if you're not going to do 6 feet of distancing, which would be 3 feet, which what we're looking at, for grades 2 through 8, you need to wear a mask. K1, it's recommended that they wear masks, and I know we're looking into the helmet shields, and we will encourage our parents to ask their children to get used to trying to wear them, but we need that mask provision in order to maintain the safety for our children, but also for our teachers and all the employees that work here. And I would also say that we transfer that to the bus as well, because it's recommended, if we're going to put 2 to a seat, you got to have the mask. Otherwise, then busing, I think we talked about this at the last meeting, could be an issue if we just went 1 to a seat. So the mask question needs to be, in addition to a motion, whatever that is. I know you got one on the table, but the mask has to be part of it in order for this to function. I mean that's a key piece, and I know we weren't clear on it, or we were clear on it, and then the governor kind of got wishy-washy on it. But they left it up to the school boards, and I think it's important if we're going to try to bring our kids and teachers back into the building.
So Lindsay, continue, and then when you're done, we'll do the whole, just raise your hand if you want to talk, we'll go all around, you know what I mean? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and I was done. I was actually just had a thought that I forgot. I forgot my thought. As far as masks, I do think, regardless of what's out there, K through 8, I will say, I feel it would be beneficial if either we did a survey or something to make sure that parents, maybe not a survey, but we need to make sure that when they know how to clean them, maintain them. If they can't, we need to make sure that we can provide them.
We'll provide that that's part of our packet of information that we plan on sending to our parents. In addition, just to being able to know what the symptoms are, but basically a checklist of things, and that's one of those
Yeah,
how to
and
wear the mask properly, and I probably can use the tutorial myself. But it's important, we'll provide as much as we can to parents and put it online, so we're a resource. So if they say, well, how do I clean this thing?
Yep.
You know, that we make it easy for people to find.
Excellent, thanks. And then Greg, I had said something earlier that you said was a good idea. Do you remember what I said? What I was supposed to bring up? Nope, all right.
So I just want to talk, I just want to make something real quick. So, and I think, Lindsay, you had mentioned this before, and again, I think it's good to bring up stuff, but I know a lot of this on Bill's plate to thing, and maybe we're thinking of things that he wasn't thinking of, right, type of deal. But I know you mentioned this. Again, I know we talked about temperature taking and all that stuff, which is, I think, a TBA deal. I believe they did kind of query teachers, and I don't think they were that keen on doing it for whatever reason. So in lieu of that, or in addition to that, whatever, is like an attestation form. Like at my work, when you travel to an office, there's a form you have to fill out that says, I don't know, I didn't have a fever in the last so many days and I whatever. And going along the lines of having parents do that at some type of frequency where they're responsible for, the kid coming to school with, whatever. There's like 3 or 4 questions usually asked, like when you go to the dentist or whatever, there's things like they ask you to do. So I would just recommend maybe something along those lines.
What Phil said is correct. The feedback we got wasn't overwhelmingly positive from our teachers, because, again, they're responsible for a lot of things. But what we've looked into two different ways to try to address that without putting more on our teachers or our administrators, is that we're looking at the viability of an online app that's we've read about, and we're checking into which one might be the best one, where parents can take their child's temperature, click the app, send the information, and it goes to the school nurse. So that if we went this route, we would have that information in real time before the children arrived. If parents either forgot or did not feel it was necessary, we would then ask the child to come to the nurse to be screened, that is for their temperature. Because it really is important that we at least have the data when they come into the school. And then, again, with the form, we'd still have them sign a form saying, we agree to do these things. The second option, Dean, do you want to explain what we talked about since you looked into it?
Yeah, absolutely. So early on in the spring when we shut down, of course, a million and one different options came out regarding COVID. One of the things was thermal checking on temperatures for portable thermometers as well as cameras. Something that I looked into early. Kind of chuckled with Bill when we talked about it earlier. The prices I got back on it were very cost prohibitive. So I did look back into it recently. Still, the prices just aren't. It's not worth doing. You can do a standalone system. It's about $16,000 per building, as well as a portable system. It's about $8,500, and it's just a portable you hang on to kind of thing. We didn't think it was a viable option really to try to bring it forward. I wouldn't suggest it, of course, but it is definitely an option to think about.
I think our best venue to try to pursue is the online app for parents to send the information to us. Because one of the things, I know Jim mentioned this before, the information, one of the key points to decide to shift to all distance learning would be to look at the number of rates of kids going home sick with the symptoms. Because according to Dr. Chan's guidance that he gave the school nurses, you have one of the symptoms, a child has one of the symptoms, they have to be sent home. And if they have siblings, the siblings have to be sent home. So we're going to be having, in theory, a number of students, and this goes back to the online piece, that we're going to have to educate based on the health guidance we're getting. So it's kind of a circle that we're in. And it's going to be ongoing. It's not going to stop. In other words, we're supposed to, if you have the symptoms and you're identified, the nurses are being trained into what they have to do. And we thought at first, well, you need 3 of the 4 symptoms, or he lists a number of them. And we actually called the hotline, and the person we spoke to said, no, it's just one. And we're like, are you sure? Yeah, I mean, here's us questioning. But they were definitive. It's just a single symptom. So, you know, it's going to be a challenge throughout the year to, you know, maintain that.
Two things. One, on that line, I know that testing is taking up to 8 days sometimes to get a test result back, and if we're sending a kid home with a runny nose and their siblings, so are they gonna get moved to the remote learning platform, or are the teachers gonna have to have something for all these
No,
kids
we're
that are
going to
gonna be
shift them
out?
to remote. We'll assign them to
Okay.
whoever's teaching their grade level. We can't have the teacher doing, you know, if I'm
Okay.
in the classroom, I can't say, oh, well, now I got 4 kids that are symptomatic. And according to Dr. Chan, absent a test result, or if someone says, I'm not getting tested, they have to wait 10 days. So we can't have the teacher, to answer your question, it's not practical.
And then I've been questioned quite a few times this week about VLAX, the online schooling, and they're telling a lot of people that they're going to work in conjunctions with the school districts. Can you just clarify what's going on there? Because everyone seems to be really confused because they seem to be really pushing their program right now.
No, they are, and the commissioner has given us that option. So if a parent does not want to participate in what we're offering, we can offer that to parents. We still haven't, we really need to look into that a little further, but you're correct, they are pushing it from what I'm hearing as well.
Lindsay?
Yeah, so I just want to throw in my 2 cents here, and certainly this will be for, you know, our admins to decipher and put into a protocol, but many, from that one article from the physician, many symptoms for COVID are not showing up for at least 10 days. So you add that along with the flus, the strep, the stomach bugs, the allergies, everything else that we're going to have. We will need to come up with a good protocol for, obviously they need to go home, but then at what point do we let that kiddo back that was sneezing from the allergies, things like that. So,
And again, a lot of this it won't be trial and error, but we're going to have to learn as we go. I guess that's trial and error to some degree. But we still need more clarification from Dr. Chan and his office. But just a normal flu season combined with this, remember when we first started the discussion about being flexible? It could be that if it's going to be a very strict interpretation, it's possible we might have to shut down for a period of a couple of weeks until, you know, we get the green light from our parents that they're healthy. If a person has the symptoms and a parent chooses not to get them tested, as I said, it's pretty straightforward. It's a 10-day sit-out. Now, hopefully, the testing will improve so that we're not waiting 10, 12, 14 days, depending on where you go to get your test in New Hampshire, which is not uncommon. You know, it's even worse, I think, in the southern and western states. But it would be disingenuous to say it's going to be very challenging, if I were to say otherwise.
No, Lindsay, I would say when you're in doubt, right, because obviously there's all these different diseases that are wound in. If you have one of the symptoms, you got to assume it's COVID, right? So you got to go like
Yes,
worst
yes,
case.
You have to treat it as such.
So the other thought was, could we look into partnering with one of the local, either CVS or Clear Choice MD, I think it's called, or Convenient MD, to do some of these tests? I mean, technically, if you have the added device, you're looking at 15, 20 minutes tops, you're going to have a negative or a positive. Same thing, a rapid flu, strep, all the same ideas that maybe the SAU could look at partnering with them, and maybe we'd be able to get some results, you know, 2 days versus 8 or 10.
We can certainly look into it, but again, you probably know better than I do. My understanding isn't so much the test, it's the reagents and everything you hear on TV that it takes. You know, I wish it's ironic that Major League Baseball and all the sports teams can get this stuff turned around in a matter of hours.
It does not take any time. It's a matter of them having to send it out and it all goes based on cost. It's
Right.
not, so, I mean, something to think about.
Somebody I know just got tested on Friday morning, and by afternoon, they had the results. Negative, thank God, but
Send me where they went to get tested so we can,
right over by the cinema.
the convenient.
They're getting quicker.
Okay. Well, let's see what we can do.
Just a quick follow-up on the testing. We're talking about protocols. If a student or a staff member or teacher has one of the signs, there's a protocol, they have to stay home and all that. And that you talking about a 10-day.
If they don't have a negative test.
Okay, so my question is, and I think that Dr. Chan's information you mentioned earlier clarifies that, or I don't know if you, in the original presentation, you indicated that we encourage in specific staff, but my question is, so if they have it, or hopefully hopefully no one gets it, but if they do, will staff and students will be required to have that test done to indicate that they now can return to the school setting?
If they don't take it, they can't return. If they do not get a negative test, they have to wait 10 days. So we can't make them go get the test. We can only urge them to get the test.
So so they have to get a test to determine if it's negative. So
Yes.
if they don't get it, how do we know if they're negative? And then there's a 10-day taking period. So what happens after 10 days?
They
So
come back.
they can come back.
If they
and
don't
there's
have the
no
symptoms.
indication, as long as they can prove that there's no symptoms of that. If they have no symptoms, are they still required to have a test?
No, if they wait 10 days and they're symptom-free, they can come back.
Okay.
According to what's been provided to us.
All right, okay.
Yeah, and Jim, just as a clarify, I know one of the concerns Bill had was like, again, teachers and kids are the same. The requirements are the same for everybody. So in the same vein, you can lose a kid for that many days, you can lose a teacher for that many days too. It's the same guidance.
But
Wayne, you
that
wanna-
brings a good point. If we can find a means to speed up the testing, they're going to be out obviously a lot shorter period of time.
Go ahead, Wayne. Yeah.
Yeah, I hate to let temperature checks go off into the night. My wife works in a medical facility. No one's job responsibility was to do temp checks, but they all rotate through it. They're wearing PPE, patients come in, staff comes in, they all get temp checked. And it's not just COVID. We talk a lot about COVID not really having hospitalization and fatality rates with a lot of people, but we're talking flu season too, and to me, it just seems like such a no-brainer. I just hate to let that go, and I got to think there's other ways we could brainstorm. I bought, it's $50 on Amazon here. I can zap, 6 to 10 people a minute with this pretty easily. You could have 5 people scan 400 kids coming in Underhill in less than 10 minutes. So I just got to think there's a way we can make that happen. I'm also concerned, we talk about kids coming in, maybe there's an app, maybe parents do the testament that they've done the temperature check, yada, yada, yada. Kids get symptoms during the day at my daycare where my kids go. Mallory or Colin are looking a little bit run down. They'll do the temp check. Hey, you got to come get your kid because fine this morning, not fine this afternoon. That gets symptomatic kids not only out of the classrooms, but out of that bus when they're going home. And I think that's huge personally.
And I don't want to, excuse me, I don't want to, I'm not saying that we won't continue to look at this to see if we can, what you just mentioned, Wayne, because I agree that if you can do it, there's a significant, obviously a significant medical benefit to it, if we can do that. We will continue to, pursue it, and if we can do that, whether it's, again, before school or maybe before they go home, we'll keep working on it to see if we can do that. I don't mean to appear to say we're ruling it out. Yep, I'm sorry.
You have a meeting with the union after this, did you say that?
I'm sorry?
not for that specific, like you would say, I mean,
So Wayne, like say, I'm totally, again, I would love to be able to take the temperatures. Again, Bill already has like a general meeting, I think, already set up with
Yes.
the teachers union, right? He doesn't know what the topics are yet, but again, some of the stuff's gonna come up. And so I'm just kind of giving you the precursor on, they kind of like sampled and kind of asked around, you know what I mean? Got an indication of what they would do and kind of what they weren't like in
And
favor
to be
of doing.
clear, they didn't take a
So-
vote.
you
Yeah.
know, a membership vote.
Yeah,
but-
it was just like if I say to everybody, hey, what do you guys think, that type of deal? So, but no, obviously it'd be awesome to take, like say, my office, some of the protocols where I had to sign in attestation and take my temperature before I went, and this is like a company office that is part of my company, because I was traveling to North Carolina, I had to do it before they would let me in the office, so I get it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, 2 more points if I can follow up. We had some emails for folks concerned about it's a HIPAA thing. It's not a HIPAA thing. And in addition, certain aspects of HIPAA were postponed because it's a pandemic, so I just want to mention that for folks watching. The other thing too is I think we talk about volunteers, you know, the state guidance has specifically page 5, you know, talking about screening folks coming in. So there's some stuff there in the state guidance, and you know, if there's an issue with staff or just folks coming in, getting started today being overwhelming, I have no doubt there would be community response. People would love to help out. I can imagine as a parent dropping my kid off, throwing on PPE, scanning 100 kids. I mean, I think there would be support for that.
I'm wondering, and you might not be there yet, but I saw the Dr. Chan, so thank you for forwarding that to us, and it was a little alarming that a runny nose will get a kid sent home and their siblings as well. I get it. I totally get it. I'm a family that's on the fence on what we're doing in the fall. But I'm a little concerned on the other side for our school nurses only having 1 per building, Underhill having a very small nurse room. Where are we putting these kids, and how are we not contaminating a kid going home for allergy symptoms with a kid that probably may have COVID? You know?
We have isolation rooms planned, and I'll let Matt, Steve, and Ben just tell everyone briefly where they'll be in each of the schools. But we've had long discussions on that very question.
So in Colony Middle School, as far as our nurse protocols that we do, we've already talked with our school nurse. And for a lot of things like Band-Aids or simple things, kid needs a Tums or something, you know, we're going to provide teachers with that stuff. If there's something with a student who's diabetic, or there's something with a student who, you know, needs care, that we give that ongoing care, you know, that's something where the nurse will meet that student outside the office or do that. We do have 3 isolation rooms. Isolation room 1, we're going to repurpose the school counseling office as one. We have actually 3 rooms in there, actually technically 4, that we have in there. And if we have to even have another overflow, we do as a conference room. So we have 5 alternative isolation rooms that are separate from the nurse's office.
Ben, since you're there, why don't you jump in, and then Steve?
So at Underhill School, we've relocated the school nurse's office to the what used to be the teacher's room. It's got adequate square footage, and it also has 2 adjoining rooms where we'll use that as our isolation spaces. We do have an overflow room if those rooms are occupied, and that's going to be right off the main hallway, and it'll be you know, ready and available for students if we need to use it. As far as you know, some of the other more day-to-day, you know, school health office, you know, types of issues that come up if a kid needs a Band-Aid, or if someone has, you know, a bump or something like that, we'll make sure that the teachers, you know, can issue Band-Aids and things like that in the classroom, so that kids aren't traveling the halls and you know, not having to, you know, go down to the nurse's office, you know, where they may be, you know, exposed to somebody else. So we're really trying to limit the movement in the hallways and only have, you know, the you know, real big concerns go down to the nurse's office.
Thanks, Ben. Steve?
And at Memorial, quite similar to what Matt and Ben have said, that we have 3 isolation rooms that are set up, one by the back entrance of the school where the buses come in, and that's going to be the teachers' or staff break room or lunch room that we're going to repurpose. For that, we also have a space right by where parent drop-off is, just outside the nurse's office. There's another room there that we're going to utilize that, so that way we're catching them as they're coming in and not going through the building. We do have a 3rd option as well. I'm not as fond of it because it's in the back of the nurse's office, but there's a separate location there that is a possibility, and we could look at more. You know, I have different ideas about different rooms if the need begins to climb. So in regards to visits to the nurse, I agree exactly with what Ben said. You know, we have every year equipped our teachers with, you know, basic Band-Aids, basic gloves, things like that, so they can just deal with the smaller things and not send those types of things, you know, just a minor scrape, you know, whatever. Not send the minor things down to the nurse right away, and have a little bit of communication back and forth when they are sending kids, so that they're not sending one kid on top of another kid on top of another kid. So, you know, we'll fine tune that as we move along, but we have those plans in place. And then for any of the kids that get a daily medication or something like that at school, the plan right now is for the nurse to travel to them so that they're not all coming down to the office, to the nurse's office. So, thanks, Steve.
Lindsay?
Well, so I have a question, which I don't know if you want to have the vote. I have other questions from our comments. Shall I keep going, or which aren't going to affect which scenario we choose?
Go ahead,
you know?
go ahead.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Should we wait? Okay.
I have some too, but they're not relative to the motion, so. I'm
Okay.
just sitting
I'll
on
wait.
them.
Okay. Okay, oh, go ahead, Jillian.
Just before we vote, where are we with filters and airflow in the building?
That's Dean just addressed that, I think.
No, I can address even further. I actually have a meeting tomorrow morning with our HVAC contractor to discuss all of that stuff. I was hoping to try to do it before our meeting tonight. Unfortunately, he wasn't available, because I was trying to get answers for you, because I knew this question was going to come up. But I am meeting with him tomorrow morning to talk about the MERV rating for the filters, what we can do, you know, all of that stuff. Potentially UV lighting as an option, depending on cost and all that stuff. So, I really wish I could have given you an answer tonight. Unfortunately, I wasn't possible.
Okay, good? Okay. All right, so, everybody's good, right? Okay, so, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous, that's good. Bill, do you want to caveat, should we make another motion about masks? Bill is suggested, just again to separate that out, to make sure that gets driven home, I think.
And before you make the before you make the motion, I think it's important to say 2 through 8, it's required or mandatory, whatever word you want to use, but with the understanding that some children can't wear them. They either have a bad case of asthma, they get rashes or whatever.
Yeah.
Those children would be exempt, and we would take that on a case by case. But 2 through 8 and highly recommended for K1. It would be what I would recommend.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that the Hook School Board requires all students between grades 2 and 8 to wear masks, except for those who may be exempt due to a health issue, and strongly encourage mask in the other grades.
And if you can amend it to both school and buses.
Yes.
And for both schools and buses,
Jim, did you say mandatory at the first part?
Yes.
Okay.
required, yeah.
Second? Second?
Can you repeat it, Joe?
The motion was to mandate or require all students in grades 2 through 8 to wear masks, except for those who are exempt due to medical issues, on buses and in school facilities, and strongly encourage mask usage in the remaining grades.
K1.
K1.
Jim, would you be willing to amend that, and then I can second it to read face coverings versus masks?
Let's modify to say mask coverings, face coverings.
Do you want to qualify it for, with the understanding that that there may be exceptions for certain populations?
You already did.
That was in the
That was in
motion,
there, I'm sorry.
except for those,
It was part of the motion.
except for those who are exempt due to medical conditions.
Okay. Any discussion? Go, Wayne.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I would be remiss not to mention the initial survey results. That was a really hot topic for the comments, 65 people had mask comments, 44 were against, 10 were optional. Some of those did fall into the category that Jim mentioned with the asthma or other issue with the mask. So I just wanted folks to be aware of that. One little hole in the motion too. So we're talking about not having kids, K and 1 not having a mask requirement, but there was some discussion about do we do that on the bus? And I think that's something worth discussing. I think maybe if you're on the bus, even if you're K and 1 for that brief period, you mask, and then you take them off once you're in your classroom. I think there's a few versions based on the comments because there's a sense of, do you need them with your cohort, or do I just need them when I'm cross cohort on a bus, entering the school, leaving the school at a bus stop, things like that. So we should address specifically K and 1 on the bus.
Okay. Jillian, you first, go ahead.
Clarify two things. We had said at the last meeting, if a kid didn't have a mask at the bus stop, we would have extras on the buses. Is that still?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll provide buses.
And then when we say covering, so are we allowing bandanas and gaiters and all the different stuff? Because there's a lot of research out there. So I'm just
So unless
clarifying.
we're requiring medical grade masks, they're all similar to the same. You know, as far as covering, the idea is to stop me spraying you with my germs. So, and I think we need to be realistic in that they need to be covered, but there's kids that certainly could be covered, but maybe can't be this covered. You know, so that little bit of floppy at the bottom, it's still stopping the spray, it's keeping everybody safe, but, you know, and we don't want our teachers to have to be reprimanding kids if they got too specific, which is why I asked us to change the wording. But then too, I think what I was going to add on is even for our K and 1, this is our motion that we highly recommend it. There could be protocols that say then are, you know, that we can help them do it. You know, there's certainly kids that can have on a mask, and if I'm gonna go up and help my student and they're capable, then they can put on a mask, you know. So there could be further guidelines, I think, but I just, in the motion, I didn't want to get too specific so that kids are getting sent home or whatever. So that's my thought.
Because if you look at the people in the attendance tonight, there's 20 different versions of face coverings.
Right.
A lot of them, majority of these types, but 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of us have, there's 5 different versions of face mask, and then if you add the assistant superintendent, that's 6. And then 7 for Mr. Farmer. So I think being specific may be problematic, but if that meets the requirements, then hopefully this will solve that concern.
Kara, go ahead. Kara, go ahead. That's okay.
Are we saying when you can't maintain 6 feet, does that need to be part of the motion? We're just having it.
Because,
I think we just have
because
it, yeah.
we're going to, our classrooms are going to be 3 feet,
Right.
and then we'll get into, you know, really mask
Semantics.
policing, and we really want to
Yeah.
try to avoid that.
No, and I guess, Lindsay, again, if you say face coverings works, Lindsay's a pharmacist, and she's been COVID-free for months, so I kind of go with what she recommends. She deals with the public all day long. Yeah, Wayne, go ahead.
Yeah, it's 2 comments. I really like the suggestion to make it flexible because I think it's going to be different for everybody. I mean, I'm reminded of the gentleman, the virologist here last week saying, I watched the board for 15 minutes and we're all doing this. And I'm like, kids are going to be doing this. So the mask that my kid is wearing that doesn't do this is a good thing. So I think that's excellent advice. And then I guess the bus, I mean, we don't need to solve the bus topic, but I'm just curious how that works because we've talked about, especially in the state guidance, you know, at the bus stop, you should distance and things like that. So, I mean, hopefully it's rare they get to the bus stop and have a mask, but also I think with outside, I think there's a lot of research about not as concerned outside versus inside, so
And I think,
that's okay.
and again, at the bus stop,
when we talk to masks, I'm talking about on the bus. Okay? We're going to recommend to parents, and again, I know being a kid, it was a long time ago, but a bus stop is a bus stop. And, you know, unless you had 4 adults or 5 adults there saying, okay, 6 feet apart, it's, you know, we're going to try to say, and some parents will be there with the younger littles, you know, they'll do their best. But it's when you get on, you're right, when you're outside, if you're 6 feet apart and you're outside, okay, you don't have it on, you know, first of all, we're not there, so we're not going to be chasing anyone down. But, you know, we're going to recommend, we're not going to deny somebody on the bus either. I'm not going to have the bus drivers get into a contest. If a kid forgot his mask or doesn't have one, it's going to be, get on the bus, they'll let the administration know, at whatever school, and then a lot of this is education, and it's going to be ongoing. And I just touched my mask again for like the umpteenth time, self-conscious. But but it's going to be a constant. We want to educate. We don't want to penalize. We don't want it to be punitive. This is what's best to keep us all healthy, and we're going to convey that to our teachers, to our parents, and hopefully working together we can, you know, make it work as effective as possible.
Greg?
I'm going to take mine down. I mean, just a quick comment. Most of these kids have been playing, a lot of kids have been playing sports together this past summer, camps, and I know my son included. So if they get to the bus stop, they're probably going to be horsing around like they've been doing most of the summer. And I think one other comment that I just wanted to make is, you know, it is our decision, but it's a community effort as well as the school's effort as well. We all have to contribute to this and work as a team once the decisions are made on what we're going to do.
Anybody else? I'd just like to say real quick, so, to the face coverings and just things in general, right? So I work in risk control for work, and you go out to locations and you make recommendations, and most times everybody's not going to comply with everything, but if you get them to comply with some things, it's better than having nothing, right? So if we have a kid that's wearing a mask that's kind of funky, but at least they're making an effort to wear one, right, it's better than not having one at all. So, okay, so we good? All right. So, all those in favor, oh, go ahead, Wayne.
Did we have to resolve the kindergarten first grade bus?
I mean, you can ask to amend the motion, I suppose, if you wish, and go from there.
I mean, I'm
Yes.
willing to call the question as offered, but I just think it's a whole.
Or just a separate motion for that.
Either way, whatever you guys come to with, doesn't matter to me. Want to go with the current motion, then we
I
can...
didn't get a sense there was a huge concern, so I'll leave it alone, but it's
Okay. Yep.
final way to.
And again, I think, Wayne, everything's fluid, right? I think that's the biggest thing about this. We're trying our best to kind of thread the needle, right? And if we find issues or whatever, we'll modify it as we go, and I'm sure Bill will be doing the same
Right,
thing.
if we, again, it's like everything else that we're going to try to implement, is if we find we can't do something, we're going to have to change it, modify it as quickly as we can, and if we find, you know, the K-1 thing isn't working, or it is working, we'll come back to it. And, you know, this is just one example of all the moving parts, you know, that we're going to have to keep addressing.
So, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Nobody. All right, so let's move on to policies. Bill?
Yes, they're both second, well, actually, the use of facilities, I think, is our third reading.
That's correct.
Kara, are there any on the use of facilities? I think we captured it all.
Yeah, no, I think we're good now. Let me-
Yeah, they're all second and third readings, so unless there's a question or,
No, if those couple changes were made
I
from
believe
last
we
week,
did, I
then
believe we
think-
did make,
yeah,
Becky
that
made
was
them.
that one. I think we're good.
Cool. I know, it's like, yeah, no one wants to stick around for a regular meeting. For those who stayed, thank you for staying. So what's happening, you guys?
I need a motion.
Yeah, we need a motion, I'm just standing here.
Make a motion to approve the second reading of policy AC and policy KF.
Second.
Any discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nope.
Thank
Mr. Chair, real quickly before we go on to something else, on the outside school group, should we take a vote on that tonight?
On the outside group.
Groups to use
I
the,
think that, I want to make, if it's okay with the board, I'd like to make that a separate agenda item at our next meeting.
okay.
So that we can take it up and give it
I
to,
think like the must-haves and then the like-to-haves.
and give it due, diligence.
With that said, I'd like to make a recommendation or even a motion to change our next meeting from the 18th to the 11th, because we're getting kind of close on time here.
I was going to make that at the end of the.
Yeah. So,
Oh, hold on. Before I say yes, I got to make sure I'm not somewhere else.
August 11th.
Is that, I'm in Auburn. I can't do the 11th, I can do the 10th or the 12th.
can anybody do the 12th? Yeah.
That's a Wednesday. The 10th is a Monday, I've got that, I'm free, I'm not free Thursday.
I can't do the 10th, I can do the 12th.
I think I can do the 12th too.
You do 12?
Hey, Wayne,
can do the 12th.
If we can do it at 6, not 5, I think I could squeeze in.
Yeah, we can go
Okay.
back to 6. No,
got town council.
Yeah, Jim's got count.
That's Wednesday, we can't do it on Tuesday, the 11th?
I'm in Auburn.
Oh, I didn't hear that, I'm sorry.
Jim, would you be cool with having a meeting without me?
If you need to, yeah.
Well, I mean, you gotta get it done, right? Can't do conscript, I guess.
Yeah, I just think the 18th, we're getting way too close.
And if you don't mind, if I have any questions, I will send them to you so you can broach them at the meeting for
Send
me.
it to me about it, that's fine.
Okay.
And,
Yeah, we'll definitely.
The 12th at 6 o'clock?
yeah, 6?
6 works for me.
We need a motion, or we all good?
That way you can at least eat before we get here.
I don't think you need a motion.
All right.
All right, we'll just make the change.
Thank you. Then you guys stop and I'm stopping.
It's 12 at 6.
August 18th to August 12th?
Yep.
At 6.
Yep. Should we leave the 18th in there too, just in case?
I'm all in. That's my daughter's birthday.
I would
I'll
keep,
leave
I
that
would
down
hold
there
it,
'cause
and we
it's
just
so
meet on the
cold.
12th, and then if we need to come back, we can.
Okay, so we have a resignation.
I'm asked the board to accept the resignation of Rebecca Benyek.
So somebody, I need a
I'll
motion.
make a motion to accept the resignation of Rebecca Benyek, computer technology teacher in the Hooksett School District, with thanks for service.
I'll second.
All's in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nope. All right, manifests up next.
I'll make a motion to approve the manifest of July 24th in the amount of $360,304.18.
Second.
All's in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Can you just sign, can we just sign it?
Yeah, who has it?
I
Opposed?
don't think anybody signed it, because
No.
he's trying to get them done every 2 weeks, so.
Oh, yeah. I have one new thing when it's,
No.
okay.
Okay, before we go non-public.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Did Lindsay get it?
No.
I'll have Dan do it. And if anyone else.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. yeah.
All right, I just wanted to throw it out there to ask the administration to reconsider the NEWA and DIBELS testing in the first week back to school. I don't think it's appropriate timing, so maybe the second week, but I think there's going to be a lot of adjustment, and you're not going to get accurate results in that first week, so I would like to ask for that. I asked the administration to reconsider the NEWA and DIBELS testing in the first week back to school. Not having it in the first week, yep.
You do what you want, I'm sorry.
Done, not a problem. I can push it. We
Thank
don't
you.
need a vote or anything.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
So now, someone make a motion, we need to go
Oh, can
What do you
I
want?
throw in more, even though it's not on the agenda?
Aye.
Could I request maybe, and actually maybe after the survey, this would actually work out well too. Could we address the drop-off and pickup specifically at Underhill? I was
We
reading
actually
a lot
have
of
that.
concerns.
We actually have that, that's going to be on my, what I'm going to do
I
is
even
the
have that?
questions, that was one of the questions that we did not answer
Right.
during our meeting. I went through them and I picked out like 15 that I felt that weren't addressed. That's one of them. Ben, do you want to quickly just touch on that while it's on the top, while it's on the table? It will take a couple, it won't take long.
I'll turn it in on speed.
Thank you. So we've taken a look at the parent drop-off and pickup at Underhill School. In the past, we've had parents drop off around the building in a loop and pick up. Parents were coming into the gym and pick up their students from the gym. We're planning on having parents stay in their vehicles the entire time for drop-off and pickup, using the same loop around the building. We're going to use a separate entrance or a different entrance from where we've done it in the past. It's just a little bit further along, by where the gazebo is. We're going to use that as our entry point for students at parent drop-off, and we'll also use it for parent pickup as well. So parents will stay in their vehicles at all times, and we will escort students in and out of the building with social distancing. So that's our plan right now.
Just one quick question. I like the idea of spreading kids out. Any security, safety concerns with the second entrance?
No, it'll be fully staffed.
Okay.
So we'll have multiple staff members on duty at that entrance, and we'll also have multiple staff members on duty for bus time as well.
Okay.
So we have plenty of people responsible for that particular duty.
Thank you.
Okay, so I need a motion to go into non-public.
I make a motion to go into non-public.
You want to make?
Gotta stay with the RSA's
What do I
and
have to
stuff.
say?
Yeah.
All right.
That's okay.
On the bottom, it's.
Yeah, it's right there, Lynn. I mean, Jillian, it's right
I
there.
make a motion to go non-public session, RSA 91A3, Section 2.
C.
C?
The letter will be
C is the citation, which represents the reason we can go in.
Okay.
C is in cat.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Awesome. All those in favor?
Sorry,
Aye.
Aye.
it requires a roll call per RSA
We
standard.
can do that too, Jim.
Sorry.
Lindsay? Greg?
Yes.
Kara?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Phil? Yes.
Yes.
Jillian?
Yes.
Wayne?
Yes.
Cool. Hey, Bill, can I give everybody the rest of the night off?
Yeah.
Go ahead, guys, go. 5, be free.